Here we are. Okay, there's a few people here. I don't know how that happened. Jen and Judy and Natalie, sorry, and Gail. So now everyone's coming in here. That's so weird. Oh well, I don't know what happened. Let me
Oh, no problem.
um so I let me see. I think everyone here, I know all of you guys, everyone knows me. I'm chair of Plastic Free Delaware, and we also work in the zero waste realm, as I think all of you know. And I'm so thrilled to welcome Anne Marie here with us today. I get her emails or her blog posts, and it's zero waste chef. I guess is a little misleading because you do so much more than just like in the kitchen. Um, Related zero waste topics, and it's just always interesting. So I reached out to Anne Marie and to see if she would join us today, and she graciously said yes. So here we are, and I guess I'll just turn things over to her, and we'll um, hopefully learn and be inspired by her today, and then maybe take some questions at the end.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
All
All
right.
right, I'll try and here, let me share my screen.
Do this.
Um, okay, can everybody see my slideshow?
Looks good. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for having me, Dee. Thank you all for coming. Um, so yeah, I'll just well, let me see. How do I? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I started down this zero waste rabbit hole back in 2011. I started reading about plastic pollution in the oceans, and I didn't realize what a huge problem that was, and it made me really sad reading about animals ingesting it and getting entangled in it and feeding it to their young. Some of this is preaching to the choir, a lot of it probably. And as you know, plastic is made from fossil fuels, and it's the fossil fuel industry's plan B as we wean ourselves from fossil fuels for energy. They're going to produce even more plastic. So back in 2011, I decided I was going to break up with plastic, and I told my daughter, Mary Catherine, she was 16 at the time. My younger daughter was 10 and didn't really, wasn't really aware of what was about to happen. And Mary Catherine said, "Oh, great. Okay." She was really into it. And we had our first trip to the grocery store when we're going to break up with plastic. And I remember standing with her in the bathroom tissue aisle and throwing my hands in the air and saying, "This is impossible. We're never going to be able to do this. I can't even get a roll of bathroom tissue without plastic all around it." So Mary Catherine started to do the research, and she started to audit all of our plastic waste. So every week she would collect our plastic and she would take a picture of it. She was part of Beth Terry's Plastic Free Challenge on My Plastic Free Life, which is an awesome website. I don't know if Beth Terry's still doing it, but um, anyway, so the pictures are blurry because Mary Cat was using an iPhone 2S because it was a long time ago. But you see the typical stuff like yogurt tubs and milk containers, which are lined with plastic, plastic utensils, plastic wrap, frozen fruit, sugar and chips and clamshells, vinegar. That was a hard one. And so most of our single-use plastic packaging plastic was from food packaging, which I think is I don't know what the stat, but most of the plastic is from packaging. And this is the after. So Mary Catherine did all the research and figured out what we needed to do. I bought Charlotte some metal containers for her lunches because she was only 10, and couldn't give her jars to take to school for lunch, and because she's still pretty little, didn't want her to break them and hurt herself. We switched to milk in returnable, refillable glass bottles. I we started shopping at the farmers market religiously. And so I'd buy fruit in season and then I'd freeze it. So I put the fruit on a tray, put that in the freezer. Once it's frozen, put it in a jar. And that way you get individual pieces of frozen strawberries instead of a clump that you can't separate. Bar soap, I don't actually remember buying liquid soap, but bar soap is such an easy thing and it's hygienic. There was a study back in 1965, very rigorous, that showed that you don't transmit germs from person, or a bar of soap does not transmit germs from person to person. It's completely hygienic. There is some sugar from the bulk store and homemade apple scrap vinegar, which you make from apple scraps and sugar. It's not apple cider vinegar, but it is good vinegar. So if you're like most people, even if you're a hardcore minimalist, you still have to eat. So I tell people start with food. So I'll talk about where to shop, what to buy, and how to buy it. So where to shop? There is a fantastic place to shop near you. It's super convenient. It's always open and it's the most economical. And that's your refrigerator. So before you go shopping for more food, look at what you have on hand and start there and figure out, what you can make with that. Chances are some of that food's in plastic. And so, if it goes bad and you chuck it, then you have to replace it with more food. So if we reduce food waste, we'll also reduce packaging waste. So that's my fridge. This is a haul from the farmer's market. After you look in the fridge, look in the freezer. So I freeze all kinds of food. I use wide mouth glass jars. I don't use learn the hard way. Don't use jars with small necks. It only happened once. I guess I hadn't left enough space or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, leave space. Wide mouth jars I've never had trouble with. Leave space. Let the food cool before you put it in the freezer. And I freeze all kinds of stuff. So I have apple cores and peels on the left-hand side on the top left corner. That's for my apple scrap vinegar. Frozen tofu. Tofu, after you freeze it and thaw it, has this nice meaty texture. It's really good. Let's see. I have some bean broth in there and some lemon curd and lemon zest. And on the right, lots of tomatoes. I freeze lots of tomatoes. Every year I say I'm going to can tomatoes, and it hasn't happened yet. Maybe this will be the year. But I roast tomatoes or I make sauce and then I throw it in the freezer. I buy the tomatoes when the price starts to fall, and then I have tomatoes, well into the winter, and then I don't buy the canned tomatoes because cans are also lined with plastic, but also this tastes really, really good. So if for no other reason, uh, I do it because it tastes really good and I avoid plastic. Then look in the pantry and see what you have there that you can cook with. Bread, stale bread or day old bread. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. French toast, croutons, bread pudding. The other day I was making macaroni and cheese for dinner and I had a hunk of bread. It was hard as a rock, or maybe not quite like a rock, because I was able to grate it really quickly into breadcrumbs. And then I sauteed those in some olive oil. And then I put them on the top of the macaroni and cheese and baked it. It was so good. And in the old days, I would have just composted that. I've composted for years and years. So at least I wouldn't have thrown the bread in the trash. But still, it's a waste of food if it goes in the compost, if you can eat it instead. And then mystery grains. Mystery grains. If you have 2 tablespoons of rice, what can you do with that? Well, you can throw it in a pot of soup and you'll use up that rice and it won't go to waste. So worldwide, a third of the food we produce goes uneaten. In the US, it's higher. It's about closer to 40%. And so worldwide, all of that uneaten food, wasted food accounts for between 8 and 10% of greenhouse gas emissions. So it's significant. When we waste the food, we're also wasting all of the resources that went into producing it. So the land and the labor and the water and the energy and the seeds and the fertilizer. and the pesticides. Not that I like pesticides, but we're applying them to crops that don't even get eaten. Okay, what to buy? Now that you've looked through your inventory. So I call this meal planning light. It's actually like playing Chopped at home, if you've seen that TV show on the Food Network. So they have contestants on this cooking show, and they each have a basket of random food, and they have to cook an entree with it in like 20 minutes or something. And it'll have a package of, I don't know, it'll have like an eel and fresh ginger and a package of gummy bears and I don't know, some seaweed, like just weird stuff. And they have to come up. So this is kind of like that, but there are no mean judges and no timer. So what can you make with what's on hand? Do you need anything else to make it? Plan 1 or 2 meals. I mean, if you want to get out a spreadsheet and make a plan for the whole month, like do that. This is just what I do. This is simple. Think about what you can do with any leftover ingredients. Try to plan ahead a little bit and then make your shopping list and then go shopping. So I'm spoiled in California. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. We have year-round farmers markets, and they're amazing. So this is all stuff from the farmers market. But you can also get quite a bit of plastic-free produce at most grocery stores, except cauliflower. You cannot get a cauliflower without plastic at a grocery store. At least I never see it. So, but you can get all kinds of other stuff usually. And then if you have access to bulk bins, you can cut down on all kinds of packaging. We buy a lot of beans and chickpeas. That's an inexpensive protein. I wrote it, if you want to read my newsletter. I wrote about the benefits of beans and lentils in this week's newsletter. And then these are my bulk spices. I like the nice thing, if you can buy spices in bulk, well, a couple of nice things. They tend to be less expensive. I've found that anyway, in my experience. And also you can just buy small amounts. So if you aren't going to use a lot of a certain spice, you can just buy a small amount so it doesn't go stale. Fresh spices make a difference. And here's some bulk things. Flour and sugar and trail mix and tea and seeds, oats. Popcorn is a zero waste food group. We make popcorn on the stove. It's delicious. It's really economical, no packaging. A bag of popcorn at Sprouts near me on sale is like $6. I mean, it would cost me maybe 50 cents, I'm thinking, with organic ingredients. So, plus no package. Some bakeries, you can take a bag and they'll put the bread in the bag for you, or you can put the bread in the bag yourself. Depends. Okay, how to buy the stuff. So this is the farmer's market near me. If you have bulk stores, you can bring your own jars and either tear them yourself or have the cashier tear them, depends on the store, and then fill them. And then when you pay at the cash register, they'll deduct the tear, so you don't pay for the weight of the jar. This is my container I bring to the farmer's market for strawberries. So I bring home strawberries instead of jam. They don't get squished on the way home. These are cloth produce bags that my friends and I make out of donated fabric. We use cotton. Occasionally we score a piece of linen. And there's so much fabric out in the world. We have never had to buy one piece of fabric. We've given away over 4,000 of these bags at the farmer's market. And then that's just a reusable shopping bag to put the produce bags in. This is a little snack bag I made out of scraps. Very simple, that's all. These patterns are like super simple on my website. And here, my friend Cecilia is handing out produce bags at our farmers market, and I gave a pile in the winter to one of the farmers. One of the It was a mushroom stand, and she used those to package the mushrooms. We did a little test project. It went well. People liked them. And here I am sewing them at Rainbow Grocery. That's in San Francisco. It's a bulk store. It's I asked there to go. I asked to go there one year for my birthday. It's such an amazing store. Here I am in the Guardian, looking very serious, uh, talking about our sewing group. So that's a really fun thing. If any of you sew, my friends and I get together. Well, usually about once a month, we get together and we sew and we socialize and we have so much fun. And it's donated fabric, so it's not like we're going out and buying virgin textiles. It's just stuff that probably or might have ended up in the trash anyway. Old sheets, in good shape though. And so like there's no downside to it. Now, if you don't have a bulk store near you, and if you will eat 25 pounds of rice, it makes sense to buy the giant bag because then you have less packaging per ounce of rice. There in the middle, there's a giant bag of flour. I don't think anyone's going to buy I don't know what that is, 50 some gallon drum of olive oil, but maybe if you have a restaurant. Well, you're already doing that if you have a restaurant. Oh, more strategies. Always take a container with you when you go out for dinner. We've been doing this for years. So the first time we did it, my kids were 10 and 16, and this was back in 2011. So I guess we looked weird. I don't know. It was the only time we got laughed at. But of course, it was when my kids were a lot younger. One was a teenager. They were both so embarrassed. But the waitress pointed and laughed, and then she nudged her coworker, and he laughed. And it was only happened one time. Maybe I shouldn't tell that story.
I bet
Anyway,
they aren't laughing now
no,
in
no,
2025.
no. Every time, sorry, not every time. Often at a restaurant when we do this, someone from another table will lean over and say, "That's a really good idea." Because I mean, even if the to-go containers at the restaurant, even if they're the most benign material, which I don't think exists for to-go containers, it's not a thing unless they're giving away, you know, $12 metal containers, which they're not. They're either styrofoam, they're cardboard with PFAS, or they're cardboard lined with plastic, or they're styrofoam, or they're plastic. But there's no downside. And so that's a simple thing. And then, of course, going to restaurants and cafes that serve their stuff in real mugs or allow you to bring your own. Uh, this was this is something I started in where I live in Silicon Valley, and so it's really just a list of restaurants and bulk stores that allow people to bring their own containers. And so if people see this list, see this sticker, or they've checked the website, they know I can go to this restaurant and ask for coffee in my mug and not feel like a weirdo. They're actually, happy to do it. And this restaurant or this cafe, they give you a discount if you bring your own. And there are a few. So now there are a bunch of those. A friend of mine started US Reduces, and there are several groups across the US. I'm not sure how many they're up to, maybe 20. Anyway, yeah, no, avoid bottled water. Like I said, preaching to the choir here. But there are 240,000 micro or nanoplastics per liter of bottled water. It's just crazy. And there are microplastics in tap water as well, but not that many. Not as many as this. AstroTurf. So this is plastic. I read in The Guardian, maybe things have changed, but this is probably a year ago, I read in The Guardian there is no AstroTurf without PFAS in it. the forever chemicals. It's hot. It burns your feet, it burns paws on a hot day, much hotter than the grass. It sheds microplastics. It's just terrible stuff. It's a real pet peeve of mine. And a friend of mine told me, and I've started to share this with people. She has a sweet little dog, and if her dog sees that stuff, she runs right for it to go wee wee on it. And you don't get that smell out. So I think if more people knew that, they wouldn't be installing it. So oh, okay, back to food. So another thing I do is I cook like grandma. At least that's how I would describe it. So I do something I call freestyle cooking where I don't exactly have a recipe. So roasted vegetables are a good example. If you have a glut of vegetables on hand, you can roast them. I like to roast them on different trays because they roast at different times. Some take longer than others. So right here are the makings of ratatouille without the tomatoes. I think maybe they're on, you can't see them. They're just not, they're on the right hand side or something. And you can eat the roasted vegetables or you can throw them in a frittata or shepherd's pie or, a sandwich. You can do all kinds of things with roasted vegetables. So, other things I make. This is some pasta on the left I made with leftover pumpkin. That was really good. On the right is roasted fennel stalks and probably the fennel bulb as well. And then with the fronds, I made pesto. So I stripped off those wispy fronds and I added parsley, olive oil, garlic, nuts. You can't go wrong with garlic, olive oil, nuts, and some green thing, as a rule. With carrot, you might want to like something like carrot tops. I wouldn't just put only carrot tops, and they have to be very fresh. I'd also add something else like spinach or parsley or something. Anyway, this also has parsley in it, and if you eat cheese, add some Parmesan cheese. You can make pesto out of all kinds of stuff. This is my homemade tofu, and when you make tofu, it's you only need soybeans and water and a coagulant. The coagulant can be hard to find. That bulk store I mentioned, Rainbow, it has it, of course, in bulk. Anyway, when you make tofu, you make soy milk first, and then you coagulate it, and you get a little bit of tofu and a lot of leftover ground up soybeans or okara. And so an easy way to use that up is to make granola, or you can make biscotti. So I made this biscotti had a bunch of okara in it. So I'm always trying to think ahead. I know if I do make tofu, I know that I'm also making granola or something else to use up all of that okara, or it freezes. So the freezer is great for, and just throw stuff in there. Fermentation preserves food and prevents waste, and it tastes delicious. So these lemons, if I did nothing with them, they would turn furry and rot, and I'd have to put them in the compost bin. But if I cut them and stuff them with salt and put them in a jar, the juice gets released, and then I add more lemon juice. And here I've added a bay leaf and some peppercorns. You let that sit for a month. Meyer lemons don't take as long. It depends on your kitchen environment also. And then you have preserved lemons, which are delicious. And if you buy them in the store, if you can find them, they're very expensive. And they add a ton of flavor to food. You only need a little bit. Here is some kimchi on the right. Same idea. If I have a cabbage and I don't eat it, it's just going to rot and end up in the compost. But if I chop it up and salt it, it will ferment and preserve itself, and then I put it in the refrigerator and it's good for, well, kimchi doesn't last as long as cabbage or sauerkraut. Sauerkraut lasts like a year in the fridge. Kimchi also lasts, it doesn't go bad, but it's not as crunchy. That's some kombucha and hibiscus soda, also some fermented food. That's more of a treat, I think. Sourdough. So I've been making sourdough since before COVID, when everybody started making sourdough. Because I'd made bread since my kids were little, but I had this inkling that I could make it without buying yeast at the store. I knew that I could capture wild yeast, but I didn't know how. I thought, like, do I get a net and run around the kitchen with it? Like, how do I do this? Anyway, so I figured it out. That's my sourdough starter, Eleanor. She turned 11 years old this year. And on the left is a loaf of bread, and that contains water, flour, and salt. That's it, because the starter is just water and flour. Now, if you want to cut your waste, you don't have to go all little red hen. You don't have to plant the seeds, to grow the wheat, to harvest the grain, to grind the flour, to bake the bread. You can just buy the bread. I'm just showing you what I do. I love baking sourdough. So clean up. I don't use harsh stuff to clean. I'm working on a newsletter about that right now. So this is a soap dish block, and they're kind of pricey, but they last a long time, especially if you put them on a soap dish so they don't get all mushy on the bottom. And this is a homemade soap dish. So you just take rubber bands, you put them on a dish or something. A ceramic dish actually works better than what I have here, which also works. This was a large jar lid, and there's a loofah, which is good for scrubbing, and then you can just compost it when it's done. There's my vinegar again, vinegar and baking soda. Those are great for scrubbing surfaces, vinegar for cleaning the toilet. And you can also, so when I started out, it was harder to get bulk things like bulk soap and bulk detergent. And depending on where you live, it might still be difficult. But, and then there are companies like Blue Land, and they have powders you can buy for dish soap and dishwashing tabs that aren't covered in polyvinyl alcohol, which is a type of plastic. You know, the dishwasher tabs you buy, and they have a little I mean, it's plastic coating on them. Well, that breaks down into microplastics. So, composting. This is some compost I brought home from the office back when I worked in an office. And there's the finished stuff. And if you, I'm not sure how it works in your city. If you have food, curbside food scraps pickup, but if you don't, you can go. So Share Waste apparently is no longer operating. There's a website called Make Soil. I think it's makesoil.org. And you look, it's kind of like Tinder for food scraps. So you go on there and you try and look for somebody in your area who is accepting food scraps for their compost bin. Or if you have a compost bin, you might want to put your bin on there. And I don't think there are a ton of pins on there yet, but the more people use it, the more pins people will get on there. Or, yeah, sorry, I think Share Waste is gone. Now, a lot of people think if they compost their food, then that is stopping food waste. I see this in marketing for not all, but some of those countertop food composters. They're not composters, they dehydrate and grind up the food. And then one company, you mail it back to them and they use it for chicken feed. And I don't know what people, if you live in an apartment, if you can't send that stuff back to the company, you don't know what you do with it. But anyway, some of the marketing says we prevent food waste. Food that you don't need is food waste. Putting it in the compost is crucial, but ideally we wouldn't waste the food in the first place. So, personal care. Okay, I'm pretty low maintenance. I make my own deodorant and people still hug me. So I think it works pretty well. Some people find baking soda harsh. So apparently arrowroot powder also works. I don't know if it works as well, but if you wanted to try it, you can do that. Let's see, bamboo toothbrushes, bar soap, which I already mentioned, and shampoo bar. Maybe I'm not the greatest ad for it, but I use a shampoo bar and they work pretty well. When we first started, my daughter bought me one. That was back in 2011. It was terrible. And I was trying experimenting with deodorant too. It was not, I was not a pretty sight. But anyway, today there are all kinds of shampoo bars. There's so much more stuff out there, so many solutions. And then handkerchiefs. I make handkerchiefs. This is these little cats were my daughter's sheets when she was 7. We got them when she was 7. She's 30 now. Anyway, they finally wore out. And the middle part was all completely threadbare, so I cut around that and I have a serger and I finished the edge, but you don't have to finish the edge. It lasts longer though if you do. Or you can buy cloth handkerchiefs. And when I first did this, my family all went, "Ew, that's disgusting." And now they love them because your nose does not get red. It doesn't get sore. They feel so much nicer. And when they're dirty, you just wash them. And they save money. All this stuff saves money. Secondhand first. This is REI near me. They have a secondhand section. I don't think they don't call it secondhand. I don't know, reworn or something maybe. Anyway, the stuff's cheaper than new, and there's just so much good secondhand stuff out there. Buy nothing groups. I love my buy nothing group. I've posted a lot of stuff on buy nothing. It's also great. Buy nothing is great if you're decluttering. And I put stuff on there. I put paint once. I thought, well, nobody's going to take this paint. There is a Benjamin Moore store near me that will take it, but I thought it'd be better maybe if someone actually used this paint. So I posted it and 2 people wanted it. It was a nice color, like it was a plain white, but it was terrible in our kitchen. I don't know, the lighting, it didn't work. Craigslist, you can find all kinds of stuff. Recycle, sometimes the curb. So I bartered with someone for this table and the 2 boxy chairs. And one day I said to my family, I'd really like a couple of more chairs for this table. And 2 weeks later, it was really only 2 weeks later, we were driving down the street and I saw these 2 chairs at the end, Ethan Allen chairs on the curb with a free sign. And so I snagged those and they matched. This happens a lot when I want something. I wait a little bit. Usually I just get busy. And sometimes it just appears. Conserve more resources. So this is going down the rabbit hole. Energy. I did a I did an event for my city back in 2021, a cooking demo, and they lent me this induction cooktop. And I loved it. It heats water so quickly, um, easy to clean. It's very easy to adjust the temperature up and down. It's instant. If you need to turn to low, it turns to low automatically or like instantaneously. And I went out and bought my own because our library lends them out and I kept borrowing one. They have 18 of them and they're always on hold. And I thought, I should give someone else a chance to borrow one. And so I finally just bought one and I use it for all my events. When I hit the road, I take it with me. Oh, here it is in action. So there I am making some clear out the fridge soup. And on the right, I'm dyeing some produce bags with avocado pits, which is just, it's just fun and stuff like that. Stainless steel cast iron and enameled cast iron work with induction. If you're not sure if your pots exist, if you're thinking about switching to induction and you're not sure if your pots will work, put a magnet on the bottom of the pot, and if it sticks, then you're fine. If you put it on the side and it doesn't stick, that's okay, because you want the bottom. The bottom is the important part. So the induction cooks or it heats up through magnets. So if the bottom heats, you're fine. So here's a before of our gas stove, and that's not a flame. This I've used one of those like infrared cameras, and those aren't flames shooting out the side, that's heat. So a lot of the heat escapes. And on the right, on the induction, the heat is only on the bottom and sides. Well, the top, actually the handle still looks cool. The lid, the pot lid. So it heats the pot instead of the air. It's very efficient. There's my pressure cooker on induction, which is super efficient. Water. So in California, we're back in a drought. And so I started to get a little wondering what I could do to conserve water. I hope I don't offend anyone here. You can cook pasta in a small amount of water. You don't need to fill the pot all the way to the top. It works with less water. I keep a bucket. Actually, I keep it outside the kitchen door, which is really close to my sink. So when I'm rinsing a pot and it has lots of water, I just throw it in my bucket and then I water my plants. This is my laundry to landscape gray water system. And depending on the city and state you live in, there might be laws against this, I think. So you'd have to check. Anyway, so this takes water from the laundry and sends it out to the yard. And if I do a load of, let's say, a bunch of synthetic fabric or dirty diapers, then you would turn that off and send it down the sink. You have to use special detergent, liquid detergent, which was easy to find. It's not hard to find. So sort of mild stuff. You don't want to send, like bleach out to your plants. And here it is. Here the guys are installing it. And so in a cold state in the winter, you wouldn't want to use this. But in the summer, it would be spring and summer, fall, it would be fine. You wouldn't have to worry about freezing. And these are some of my native plants. They're drought tolerant. They're like no maintenance. Oh, okay, I have to do a little bit of weeding, but they're very low maintenance. And they're pretty. Our insects are in trouble. And so this helps them, provides them habitat. Okay, why bother? So why not just live like a normal person, as my younger daughter said back when we started this. So there's the short answer. The longer answer, taste your food. So the stuff I cooked today tastes so much, it has so much flavor. It tastes better than what I used to eat. These are some crackers. If I want a snack, I have to make a snack or eat a piece of fruit. So I don't eat as much snacky stuff as I used to. These are some roasted chickpeas, also delicious. Healthy gut. So there's so much information out now about the connection between our healthy gut, our gut and our overall health, even our mood. And I eat all kinds of fermented food and lots of produce. I eat more vegetables now. If you do nothing else, just eat more vegetables. I could have said that at the beginning and we'd be done. Just eat lots of vegetables. Save money. This is my homemade vegetable broth. So I save my onions, not the skins so much because I find they make broth bitter, but I save my onion bits and carrot ends and bits of celery and tomato cores, and I put them in the freezer until I have a whole bunch. And then I simmer those in water and strain them, and I end up with tasty, free unpackaged bra. Oh, but the best reason is it makes you a rebel. I was in the Mercury News back in 2018, and so this is a big paper. It's one of the, yeah, anyway, I don't know what it would be equivalent to. I'm trying to think. But anyway, it's big paper. Has a lot of readers. And a reporter and a photographer came over, and I knew I was going to be in the paper because they interviewed me and took pictures, but I didn't know when it would appear. And one day a friend of mine texted me and she said, "Oh, great write up in the Mercury." And I said, "Oh, it's out." And she sent me the link and I read it online. And then later in the day, I thought, "Oh, I wonder if it's in the print edition too," because sometimes things don't make it to the print edition. So I went to the grocery store. I have the same shirt on that I have on in the picture there. And I was walking around looking for the papers and I saw the stand. And I was on the front page above the fold. And I went, woo! I just stood there in shock. And I'm an introvert. And so I thought, wow, how many people opened their door this morning and saw me like smiling up at them? So it kind of freaked me out a little bit. And I calmed down and I grabbed a paper and I went up to the cashier and I put it on the conveyor belt. And the woman in front of me turned around to see it. To see what I was buying. And she saw the paper and she took her hand and she swatted it. She said, "That woman, she's so extreme." And I just looked at her and she said, "I commend her for what she's doing, but she's so extreme." And I still just stood there like a deer in the headlights. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, is that you?" And then she got very nice, but I was just kind of in shock by the whole thing. Okay, don't feel guilty. We didn't create this mess. We're not the ones pushing all this plastic. I think a lot of people feel guilty if they buy food in plastic, but you have to eat. And we didn't create this system, this crazy system. Oil companies should feel guilty. Oh, sorry. Don't feel guilty unless you're an oil company executive, which I doubt any of you are. So then I think I don't know how you sleep at night. Um, and right. So here we need everybody to do at least a little bit. Let's pretend there are 10,000 of you listening to me today. I figure like 1% of the audience is going to go all in and say, I'm cutting everything. I'm going to make bread and I'm going to name my starter and I'm going to ferment everything and you know going to cut it all. I figure only 1% of people are going to do that. Now let's say so we produce about 4.5 pounds of waste. Actually, it's more than that now per person in the US. So if 1% of this 10,000 person audience cuts all their waste, it's about 160,000 pounds kept out of the waste stream, which is great. But if 25% of 10,000 people cut a quarter of their waste, then it's over 1 million pounds kept out of the waste stream. But if everybody does 10%, then it's 1.6 million pounds. So we have to get everybody to do at least a little bit. And I think people will keep going. Like, I don't think anyone says, well, I'm using a reusable bag, I'm done. I think they'll see the benefits and think, oh, I'm going to try some other stuff. At least that's been my experience. So, oh, that's my book, my cookbook, available where you borrow or buy books. It's called The Zero Waste Chef. It's a cookbook and then it has a bunch of information up front. And yeah, thank you very much, Plastic Free Delaware. I wasn't sure if it was Plastic Free Delaware or Zero Waste First State, so I put them both. And I'll stop sharing.
It is both. We started out as Plastic Free Delaware working just on bags, and we got the law done in Delaware. We were the fourth state in the country to ban plastic bags, single-use plastic bags. And so, but even while we were working on that, we started branching out to other single-use plastic and trying to, we've got styrofoam and balloons done, and we're working on other,
Wow.
yeah. And
Oh,
then,
that's awesome.
but we've branched out into just zero waste in general. So we're in this weird place where we have two names.
Ah, okay.
People know us as Plastic Free Delaware, but that's somewhat misleading because we do more than just plastic.
Ah,
So
okay.
anyway, Anne-Marie, that was
So,
awesome. That was
oh,
so
thank you, Dee.
informative. Yeah, that was, I mean, I think you probably are preaching to the choir, but we always learn things from others and get inspired by others. And it was terrific. So I don't know if
Oh, thank you.
anybody else out there have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have a comment. I don't live in Delaware now, but I moved there. I lived there 40 years, and saw Dee do all of her wonderful stuff. The first thing she started with was the plastic bags, getting plastic bags eliminated in Delaware, and so I live right across the line from Delaware. When I go shopping at a store in Delaware, it's so wonderful.
Hmm.
You're not handed a plastic bag. That's not an option anywhere, and it always kind of stuns me when it first happens. But I remember when you first had that law passed, and there was a man, I think he was on maintenance, cleaning up down near one of the rivers, and he said he immediately saw the difference in the
Wow.
reduction of the waste. So it's just so cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
The
Yeah.
well, I know the woman who runs the Public Works Department for the city of Wilmington, and she said a couple years ago that it was the most impactful piece of legislation she's ever seen in her life in terms of her
Wow.
That's
their
cool.
work. Yeah,
Wow,
isn't
and
that
you worked on that?
pretty awesome? Yeah,
She she
we
was
led on
she
that.
was it.
Wow, good
Oh,
for
we have
you. That's amazing.
Dee was the dynamo.
yeah,
Wow.
lots of people
Wow.
helped, and lots of kids
Yeah.
helped too. That's why we're very youth oriented and do a lot of school
Yeah,
programs.
yeah. Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So
I have
Natalie,
to
jump in.
share a few things. I have to share. I went out to dinner in Philadelphia the other night, and they came back with my iced tea with the straw in it, and I was about to be like, "You can't do that," because
So
I
you realized
realized
you were in Pennsylvania.
I was in Pennsylvania. So I've been
Oh.
watching in Delaware. Most of the places have been pretty good. I have a few questions. You mentioned cans. There being a problem with cans.
Yeah, cans are lined with plastic.
All cans?
He's
Yeah, like soda cans. Soda cans
Like
are lined
soup
with
cans.
soup cans. Yeah, yeah, they're lined with plastic. And so,
Oh man, that sucks.
well, yeah, yeah, it does.
I always
I
feel like
mean,
cans are better.
well, I mean, I don't have numbers or anything to back me up. My intuition just says, yeah, I mean, better than a plastic container because, that's not going to get recycled. At least the cans get recycled, but I mean, they must just, I don't know what happens to the plastic in the cans, but
I
yeah,
was just gonna say, do you know what happens when they recycle
no,
cans?
no, I should, my daughter works so the one who was really into it when we started, she's now she works for Union City. She works in the city government on sustainability. And I'll ask her. She
Yeah, I'd
would
be
know,
curious to
yeah,
know
what
that.
happens to the plastic lining. But yeah, and so cans, a lot of cans or some cans they'll say now BPA free because
Oh,
the
okay. I'll
lining
have to
will
look for
have
that.
BPA, and maybe they are BPA free, but they probably have BPS or
Right.
BPF, which are
Exactly.
just as bad, if not worse. Yeah, and then like soda cans, they have a. If you go online, you can
Well, you
find a
shouldn't be
video.
drinking soda
I was
anyway,
gonna say
so
Well,
there's a
yeah,
video online where somebody I forget how they
yeah,
do it.
they put the
It's
can in some sort of acid.
and the metal all dissolves and you're left with the plastic liner. You can see it clearly.
uh,
Yeah,
no idea. No
yeah, and so
idea.
that's we're all consuming microplastics and
Hmm.
when you drink out of those and I mean the cans have a high recycling rate, so that's good, but it's when I first started this I just I wanted off of the plastic because I saw pictures of animals, like entangled in it, or the dead albatross filled with plastic. I was just so horrified. And I didn't think about the health impacts on me. And now, like the last few years, that's all coming out. Like we're breathing microplastics, we're drinking them, we're eating them.
I know, and there's such the bottled water industry has done such a good job marketing. Like people think the water in the bottle is better for you.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
I have another question before we run out of time. I noticed you had organic milk in glass containers. Is that unpasteurized?
No, that's pasteurized.
It is. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you can get that around here.
Oh,
I mean, like there's raw milk, but I don't want to drink raw milk.
Yeah. I'm reading a book on tuberculosis right now.
Right.
You don't want to drink raw milk.
No.
Yeah. Well, let's see, we had to look around a little bit to find milk in glass bottles. It's more common now where we live. I can get it at a few different places, but yeah, I bet if you go.
Oh, somebody says they get it at Sprouts. Okay. Well, I don't live anywhere near there, but yeah, it's good to know.
Yeah, and I think the milk tastes better in glass. And it stays really cold.
Yeah.
So, and then I just return the bottles. You pay a deposit, and then you return the bottles. And sometimes I like to save up the bottles until I have like 10 of them, and then I'm like, oh, I have all this money. I feel like I'm going to the bank to take my bottles.
I'm old enough to remember the milkman, and I had an uncle who was a milkman.
Oh, wow.
So I fondly remember that.
Well, I remember we had my mom drinks a lot of Coke. And I remember when I was little, you paid the bottles, you get 25 cents back for the glass bottles. And so if I wanted money, I'd say, oh, can I please have your bottles? And I'd take them to the store.
Oh, yeah, I remember that, collecting bottles.
Yeah.
Delaware is the only Delaware has the infamous or ignominious, whatever is the proper word, for being the only state in the country that's done away with its bottle deposit law.
Really? Delaware's the only one?
Yeah.
Well, there's something else you can work on, Dee.
I know, it's kind of on the long list. We were talking about it the other day, actually, in our policy committee, if anyone's interested in joining our policy committee. But yeah, I think it's going to be an uphill battle to bring it back. Wow. At least not the way we had it before. I do think there might be a way to bring it back with not having the grocery stores and liquor stores handle it. Just have
they're probably
drop off.
Yeah. So I'm in Ontario, Canada right now, and we have I'm visiting my mom. I'm from here, and we have a horrible premier here. That's like the Canadian equivalent to a governor. And since the time I was little, the beer store was where you bought beer, and you would return your bottles. It's and cans, and it's a super effective, wonderful program. And he's changed it so that now you can buy beer at corner stores and grocery stores. And they do not want to deal with the bottles. And all the beer stores are closing. And they are destroying this fantastic program. Like when I was little, you just wouldn't even think to not return your bottles. Just everybody did it.
Yeah. And the bottles got reused. Sorry, now we for those who do put their bottles in their curbside recycling, it all goes down to the MRF and gets smashed and made into glass again. But there's a lot of energy lost there, and we're not reusing the bottles.
Right.
It is getting recycled, but
I'm just wondering what they do in Pennsylvania, because they have beer distributors in Pennsylvania, and I used to be able to bring your bottles back there. So I don't know what's going on there now.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
I know. Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions for Anne-Marie? Jen, you have some? You look like you have a question. Can you unmute or no?
Oh, you're at work.
Oh. Did you put it in the chat?
You can type it in.
Oh, it's in there. Okay. How do you stay positive? That question? Okay. How do you stay positive about the fight in these current times? I do a lot, but get bogged down when I see trash on the street or someone using a straw or policy changes going backward. It's quite depressing.
Yeah. Um, well, hanging out with like-minded people, I think it really helps when you come to a meeting like this and you see a group of people who are concerned. And most people are concerned. That's the other thing.
Mhm.
Nobody
And
likes plastic waste. Not
I think
even,
if you give people ideas, like I don't know, I knew somebody who didn't know that you could get the sheets, the detergent sheets for your washing machine. They're still lugging these bottles around. They didn't know about them. So like sharing that kind of information, I think is helpful.
Yeah, we've been
oh,
giving them away when we do tabling events. Jen, you could get
Mhm.
involved with Plastic Free Delaware. Reach out if you're interested. We have a couple different committees, um, and always looking for people to get involved. And hopefully, at least in Delaware and in California, we're lucky. I think California is definitely a leader, obviously, in these issues. And I'd like to think Delaware's we're maybe not a leader because we're so small, but we've got a lot of things in the pipeline. We have two bills right now that are pending that are carried over from June. We're hoping they'll get passed in January. We've got a bunch of other bills ready to come right behind them, and we've got our youth summit and other programs. So hopefully, we're not going backwards anyway, at least in Delaware.
There,
yeah, no, that's great.
there's also curbside pickup of food waste,
Oh,
which if you can't compost, excuse me, it's wonderful.
Where in
We
Delaware?
have our
In
community
Del,
composting program too, but I
yeah,
love what I have to look up what you said, Amory, about
yeah,
share waste.
well, yeah, share waste. I mean, the last time I looked, their map was still online, but they said they were shutting down. So maybe they're not adding any new pins to the map. And it started in Australia, and there aren't a lot of people participating, but where I live, there are a few. There are some. We put ours on there and our compost bin, and I did get a few people coming over. Actually, in January, I think it was January 2022, California's food scraps law went into effect. And then I had more people coming. That's when I got like three people coming over with all their food scraps. So, anyway, so apparently, if the website is still up, which I haven't checked lately, it's probably not updating, but there is Make Soil.
But there is, oh, I'll look that up. There is,
Org, I think.
it's a it's a neat concept though. And
It
even if they
is.
aren't, because we have our community composting project going, and you have to be a member, but of the site, and the site other sites we're trying to get going. But that's an interesting concept. That's something maybe we could integrate into the
Well,
statewide
yeah,
program.
yeah. Yeah, like if you have a bin,
Yeah,
you can
because
invite people to come and
we do have a little bit of one firm, a young man that picks up across the top of the state called Wastewell, but he takes it to Pennsylvania. Some of you may have seen my posts about that.
Oh, okay.
But and then there's another woman starting up a curbside pickup program in Kent County. But Delaware doesn't have any commercial composting operations, so that's really holding us back.
Mhm.
But that's why we're trying to do the community composting and sort of raise awareness and get more people doing it.
Yeah, I
So,
don't know about Ontario, but I remember being in Quebec province, and everywhere that we went had three bins: trash,
oh,
recycling, and composting.
yeah,
Um,
I was in Montreal recently and with my daughter. My other daughter goes to school there, and we took a picture of the bins because we can't with Mary Catherine, we can't walk past bins without her taking a picture of it. And yeah, they had three. That was recently though. When did you see that? Was that
oh,
a
it's
what?
several years ago.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. Yeah, Quebec is pretty progressive on a lot of things,
Tell
and
me about it. Like
except
healthcare.
language. Oh, well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
all
So,
right. Well,
All
any
right. Well,
other questions out there? Sorry, Natalie. So,
I was just going to say thank you because I have to run.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Great
Yeah, thank you
presentation.
for having me and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and
Oh,
hope
you're
you have a
welcome.
thanks to everybody for being here. Hopefully, not too many people got lost over in the void out there, but appreciate those of you who found your way over here.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Dee.
Anne Marie. That was great.
Okay. Oh,
All
thank
right.
you. Thank you,
All right.
Dee.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye.